Hello folks, Robert the narrator here. Thank you for checking out this video. This will be the first episode in my series of videos in which I talk about some of the more interesting NPCs in the basic edition of my role-playing game, Peace the RPG. Also going to start with some basics so that you're not going in cold if you haven't checked out the basic edition or checked out the rules of conflicts in the game. I wanted to make sure you had that information. So let's go to the bestiary and the basic edition of the game. Starts right here. Now, NPCs are similar to heroes. They have warfare, influence, and power, attack stats, defensive stats, and traits. The biggest difference between heroes and NPCs is the NPCs' attack stats, warfare, influence, and power. And NPCs' attack stats aren't dice, but are a fixed number of attack points. This makes them easier for the GM to use. Now, just to give you an idea of how conflicts work in Peace the RPG, every character has three what are called attack stats. They have warfare, influence, and power. And each of those attack stats has an associated defensive stat. Warfare has defense, influence has willpower, excuse me, and power has resistance. At the beginning of a conflict round, after the game master announces that the scene is going into a conflict, at the beginning of each conflict round, players should decide how their characters are going to handle the threats in front of them. Are they going to use quarterstaff, bow, punching, or kicking? They would want to choose their warfare stat. If they were going to try to talk their enemy down, befriend them, taunt them, or frighten them, they would want to use their influence stat. And if they were going to cast spells or use arcane or divine forces, they would want to use their power stat. For heroes controlled by the player characters, they roll the dice associated with that stat, and that generates the character's attack points for that particular combat round now, or conflict round. As I mentioned just a couple of seconds ago, NPCs who are put forth to challenge the heroes of the game don't have to roll. Their attack points are already established, and you'll see that in a couple of seconds. And so that makes it easier for the GM to work with the NPCs. Now, that generation of attack points determines generally how many times the character is going to be able to attack it. It's the multi-attack system for the game. So attack points are spent, and every time a character can spend a number of attack points equal to the target's appropriate defense, they get what is called a damage check. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. So let's pull up the NPC that we're going to be talking about in the game. And I've gone a little bit too far here. And we are going to be talking about the Bladestorm Golem. So the Bladestorm Golem was probably one of the first 10 or 15 NPCs I created for the game. I really wanted to create an NPC who could give a challenge to the melee warriors amongst the heroes and would really be scary for some of the spellcasters in the game as well. So as you can tell, I'll just give you a breakdown here. You have the name of the NPC here on the left. You have the vocation of the NPC. So NPCs have vocations just like player characters do. There are warriors, adepts, and adventurers. This NPC is an adventurer, which means that some aspect of the character is martial, and some aspect of the character may also have a little bit of magic involved. And the level of the NPC is lieutenant. So in the game, and this is going to be important when I talk about what happens after you spend enough attack points to attack your target and during a conflict, this NPC is a lieutenant. So NPCs have 6 levels in the game. You have minions, thugs, lieutenants, chiefs, bosses and overlords. This is a lieutenant, and the game also has 10 hero levels from 1 to 10. In the basic edition of the game, only the first 3 levels for heroes are included. Then, just like heroes, if you look here, these are the 3 attack stats. You have warfare, influence, and power. Then you have the defensive stats. You have defense, willpower, and resistance. And as you can tell here, the Bladestorm Golem has 16 attack points under their warfare, 6 under influence, and 6 under power. So this would be a great time to talk about how talk further about how a conflict would be resolved. So if this Bladestorm Golem were to attack another Bladestorm Golem for some reason, it has 16 attack points under warfare. So I'll let you know. We'll talk about this in a second. The Bladestorm Golem fights with 4 swords. It has 4 arms. So it would be attacking, it would be making a melee attack. And a similar creature, a Bladestorm Golem, has a 6 defense. So the way it works, as I said, is every time an attacking character can spend a number of attack points equal to the target's appropriate defense, they have a chance to damage them. So the way it works out here is if a Bladestorm Golem were attacking another Bladestorm Golem, every 6 attack points under warfare it could spend, it would get a chance to damage it. So the way it works out is the multi-attack system. In this case, a Bladestorm Golem could get 2 attacks against itself and still have 4 attack points left over. And what a damage check is, what a damage check is, it's kind of elegant, I think. It is a comparison of the attacker's level with the defender's level. So once the attacker spends enough attack points, they get a damage check that's a 2d6 roll. And basically, as the Game Master, what I do is I cross-reference the hero's level against the NPC's level, and that tells me what target number the attacker has to roll to successfully damage the target. So it's kind of elegant. It makes sense to me. Your ability to harm a target or attacker's ability to harm a target is based on their levels. It makes a lot of sense to me. So if you look here, you have the hit points of the Bladestorm Golem listed, their composure, which is basically their mental hit points. They have the physical armor, which reduces any damage, hit point damage that the target receives. Influence damage is the ability for a character to lower an opponent's composure by trying to frighten, befriend, or taunt them. You have your move. This is the number of new squares a character can enter during their turn of a conflict. And then you have influence armor, which is damage reduction for composure damage. So this is the amount of composure damage this character can take without any ill effects, and the rest goes on to reducing their composure. And then you have the 10 attributes: acrobatics, athletics, education, endurance, knowledge, perception, riding, strength, survival, and thievery. And these are the attributes that you use when you are attempting to accomplish things other than necessarily attacking. Under attributes, you have attribute specializations. So the Bladestorm Golem has athletics, sprinting. They get a +2. It gets a +2 when it's sprinting. Max initiative. I won't talk about that now, but basically that is the cap on the initiative that the NPC has, depending on what type of armor they have or how quickly they can move during a conflict. And then you have battle scars. The Bladestorm Golem has 2 battle scars, and battle scars are bennies or hero points that it can use for rerolls and other effects. Now, to get to the meat of the character, we have the NPC's abilities here. But before we go on to that, I'll just give you below the abilities, the breakdown of the hero. You have the creature type, which is a magical construct. So the Bladestorm Golem is a magical construct. It has a drive, so it tells the GM what motivates or what is this NPC's goal. And the Bladestorm Golem's drive is to guard an area. And I'll explain now under the description why that is. So 7 feet tall stone guardians with 4 arms wielding 4 swords, Bladestorm golems are deadly protectors. They were created by an ancient empire to guard the entrance of a king's tombs and act as bodyguards. So, despite being 7 feet tall and constructed of stone, the golem's enchantment allows it to move like lightning, spinning in and out of melees with multiple enemies, avoiding the enemy's strikes as it moves on to slash other targets. The Bladestorm golems will almost certainly only be encountered near ancient ruins. So that was my idea for the Bladestorm golem. It is a 7 foot tall statue with 4 arms holding 4 swords. And it is, if you go to an ancient ruin, it may be guarding the entrance to the ruins or guarding a tomb of a former king or queen, and or it during the ancient times of the ancient empire that constructed these magical constructs, they were also used as bodyguards. So I wanted them, that is the idea I had, this 7 foot stone statue that was really could move across the battlefield as quick as lightning because of the magical enchantments that animates it. And we'll go over you'll see that in the abilities here. So the first ability for the Bladestorm golem is Bladed Whirlwind. So Bladed Whirlwind is basically their attack. So it's a warfare attack. They do 16 damage. It has a speed of 4, and on a 5 or 6 on the fate die, you may move 3 squares without suffering disengage strikes, and then an adjacent enemy loses 8 hit points. So what all that gobbledygook means is, as I said, when the Bladestorm golem spends enough attack points to get a damage check against the enemy, one of the 2d6 that you roll to try to hit that target number to damage the target, one of those die should be a different color and be designated as the fate die. That is the die that explodes. So if it rolls a 6, you total everything up and keep rolling. If you keep rolling a 6, you keep totaling it up and adding it to your total so you can get those higher totals with your check. And essentially what Bladed Whirlwind says is, when the Bladestorm golem rolls a 5 or a 6 on the fate die of that attack, it can move 3 squares or 15 feet, and without the chance of any attacks of opportunity or any additional damage because it is leaving or retreating to another area. And then an adjacent enemy loses 8 hit points. So what this represents is the golem attacking, getting a really solid attack on one target, and then spinning over to another target and causing another target to lose hit points by slashing it with one of its 4 swords. So the Bladestorm golem is like a spinning top of bladed death. That is what I wanted to get across with the Bladestorm golem. Now, its second ability is parry and slash. Again, you have to be using warfare to use this ability. And what it says is, if an attacker damages you with an adjacent warfare attack but does not roll a 5 or 6 on the fate die, cancel the damage and the attacker loses 3 hit points. So what this represents is the Bladestorm golem having 4 swords. An enemy comes in to attack in melee, and if they don't roll well enough, the Bladestorm golem can cancel the damage from that attack and slash the enemy back. So it has 4 swords. It's, again, a spinning whirlwind of death. And the third ability is Monster. 20 hit points have been added to the hit points of the golem, and it is a large creature, so it occupies 4 squares. Swift is the next ability. Swift basically means that the Bladestorm golem doesn't suffer from disengage strikes. So essentially, when it leaves being a square, being adjacent to an enemy, that's kind of considered a retreat. But the golem doesn't lose any hit points because of retreating from an enemy, because it's so fast, and that's what it's designed to do, is to swiftly move from opponent to opponent on the battlefield. And finally, as I mentioned, one of the abilities is Magical Construct, and it says you are immune to composure damage and loss, HP loss, or effects from poisons and disease, and don't require food, drink, or sleep. A character with the Dispel talent may attempt to deactivate you. The damage check should be performed against a boss level NPC. So that just explains that, of course, as I said, the Bladestorm golem is a magical construct, and if a character has the spell talent Dispel, they may be able to shut down the magical enchantment that enchants or animates the Bladestorm golem. So I really love this NPC. I'm going to try to go through every level of NPC that is in the basic edition, because there are only 3 hero levels in the basic edition. There aren't any NPCs in the group that would be like an overwhelming, just disastrous challenge. There are challenging NPCs, so it does go up to chief level NPC. That is kind of the for up to a 3rd level character. A chief level NPC is kind of the head of the scheme or mission that the player characters are trying to go on. That is the biggest NPC they really should face from levels 1 to 3. So I'm going to try to mix it up, give a little bit of variety in the NPCs that I feature, and make sure that all of them are interesting. So I really hope that you liked the Bladestorm Golem and it helped you understand the conflict rules in the game. Please check out the next episode in the series next week. And thank you very much for checking out this video. Talk to you later.